Hello, everyone. I'd like to introduce you to our webinar on skills needed to succeed in Canada's environmental industry. Before we start, I want to take a minute to recognize the traditional Indigenous lands where Eco-Canada's offices is based in Calgary. At Eco-Canada, we're committed to working towards respectful acknowledgement, collaboration, and reconciliation with the Indigenous peoples across Canada. This starts with acknowledging our home and privilege to live and work with the Treaty 7 territory. Today, we are presenting from the city of Calgary, home to the Métis Nation of Alberta. We'd also like to take this time to acknowledge the traditional territories and oral practices of the Nitsitape home of the Blackfoot Confederacy, which includes the Siksika, the Biguni, and the Kainai First Nation, as well as the Tsuut'ina and the Ayahe Nakota, which include the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations. Eco-Canada is committed to increase the participation of Indigenous talent in the environmental sector through our BEAR trainings program. The BEAR guiding principles are centered around respect and acknowledgement of the Indigenous people's cultures, histories, legal status, and relationship to the land. A bit of background on who we are here at Eco-Canada is it is our vision to build the world's leading environmental workforce. Eco-Canada seeks to help environmental workers succeed at each step of their career journey. To do this, Eco-Canada has developed programs tailored to individuals at different stages of their careers. Those looking to enter the environmental workforce, Eco-Canada provides training through the BEAR program and accreditation for environmental programs at post-secondary institutions. Eco-Canada also provides opportunity for new workers to break into the environmental sector through wage funding for co-op students and recent post-secondary graduates. For those already employed as environmental workers, Eco-Canada provides environmental professional and environmental professional in training certifications. Lastly, Eco-Canada provides opportunities for those with vast experience as environmental workers to provide guidance and direction to Eco-Canada's products and programs through advisory committees and emeritus memberships. This webinar will be led by two members of our research team, Claudine Vidalo, who is the Director of Research, and Jenny Peters, our Senior Manager of Research. I will now pass it on to them two to discuss the topic of skills needed to succeed in Canada's environmental industry further.
Thank you, Conrad. This is Jenny speaking. I am glad to have you join us on this webinar. Just to give you an outline of what we're going to be talking about, we're going to be looking at how Eco-Canada defines a green job. It's something that there's a lot of discussion about. Not necessarily everybody agrees, but we'll give you our perspective. We're going to then present you with some of the information that is contained in our Canada Labour Market Outlook for environmental workers. We'll also present some information about recent job postings and opportunities available in the environmental sector, some HR insights, and then we'll wrap up towards the end. Just to give you some idea of what Eco-Canada does, as Conrad was saying, we support environmental workers across Canada. In our research capacity, we work to provide up-to-date, relevant, and credible data and insights on Canada's environmental workforce. Those insights are made available for a wide variety of different types of users, including individuals, job seekers who are looking to build meaningful careers in the environmental sector. We're interested in helping out employers who are seeking environmental workers and hoping to retain and develop environmental workers. We like to provide information to governments who have policies or programs which affect the environmental sector. And then we also reach out to educators and trainers who are involved in preparing the workforce with the required skills and knowledge. All of our reports are available on our website at eco.ca. You're welcome to download them for free. Just a quick disclaimer, this information is created with information that Eco-Canada deems to be reliable, but we can't promise that we are providing information that is necessarily error-free, and we can't give you an assurance that the information is necessarily correct, but it's the best information that we can develop. It's funded by the Government of Canada, and the opinions and interpretations of the publication are Eco-Canada's and do not necessarily reflect those held by the Government of Canada. So let me start off with the environmental workforce definition that Eco-Canada has developed. In a lot of ways, environmental workers are integral to the activities in a wide variety of industries. We see that there are workers who are involved in environmental protection, natural resource management, and sustainability in industries including public administration, in industries such as mining and oil and gas extraction, forestry and fishing, manufacturing, construction, even retail sales and transportation and warehousing. Workers who are involved in industries outside of what we would consider environmental products would be considered core environmental workers. And those are workers who, in order to do their job, have to have some specific environmental competencies or knowledge or skills or training. So these are individuals that could be working in oil and gas or could be working in manufacturing, and their job is to ensure that the activities in that industry are having the least impact on the environment. On the other side of the spectrum, we have individuals who are working directly for organizations that provide environmental goods and services. So these would be companies like solar panel manufacturing companies, organizations that are developing new technology for undersea monitoring or fisheries monitoring, individuals who operate drones and interpret the data for drones that are overseeing field monitoring across Canada. Those are individuals who their output is going to be directly environmental goods and services. We can also see that there are some individuals who fall into both categories. So an individual could be working in the environmental goods and services sector and require very specific environmental skills or knowledge. But there are workers in the environmental goods and services sector who don't need environmental skills, knowledge, or competencies. They're there to support the development of those industries, including people in accounting or human resources or administrative positions. Those would also be considered environmental workers from our perspective. We also take a look at the environmental sector from the perspective of the type of activity or the specialization of the worker as well. We've identified three broad categories or sectors of environmental work: environmental protection, resource management, and environmental sustainability. Within each of those sectors, we have a number of different specializations or subsectors of activity which individuals in the environmental workforce might be specializing in. So in the environmental protection sector, for example, we have individuals who specialize in air quality protection, water quality protection, some who are involved in site assessment and reclamation activities, some who are involved in waste management, or those involved in environmental health and safety. On the resource management side, we break down the activities into three groups: energy, which includes energy efficiency activities, renewable energy activities, and energy management. Natural resource management is the prudent and environmentally sustainable use of or extraction of oil and gas, forestry products, mining, minerals, farm products, agricultural products, fisheries, and so forth. And then we have fisheries and wildlife as the third category. The last group is environmental sustainability, where we have those types of occupations or those types of individuals who are supporting the activities in those first two categories through a variety of means, developing strategic sustainability programs, policy and legislation for supporting the environmental protection and resource management sectors, research and development into new technologies and processes, education and training of individuals who are going to be working in that field, and then communications and public awareness. It turns out that most environmental workers actually have specializations in more than one of these sectors. So it's very easy for an individual to be operating in the natural resource management sector, as well as the site assessment and reclamation specialization, or individuals in research and development, in air quality. Lots of different combinations occur. So individuals are broadly trained and often apply their skills in a number of different sectors. Now, some of the factors that drive the need for environmental workers going forward are identified here on this slide. The big factors that have been identified include, of course, climate change, which is a major topic of discussion, and it's influencing many policy decisions and programs. Regulatory changes, sometimes related to climate change, sometimes related to other types of environmental protection. Of course, economic growth. Where we have economic growth, we have development, we have a need for economic environmental workers to help support that economic growth. Sometimes the government changes, and the changes within the government have an impact on whether or not the environmental workforce is going to be supported going forward. Increasingly, there are financing opportunities for businesses that are interested in getting into environmental production of goods and services, or organizations like oil and gas companies that are interested in sustaining the investment that they're getting internationally, sometimes have to switch gears and redirect their efforts into more renewable energy resources or carbon capture or other types of technology. Sometimes there's a need for a professional certification or license for environmental workers, and that also plays a role in the development of the environmental workforce. Let's take a look at our forecast, our most recent forecast of environmental workforce activity across Canada. This chart shows a couple of trend lines, which are, I think, very illustrative of what's going on in the environmental sector. The top trend line shows the total employment across Canada forecasted through to the year 2025. And if you take a look at that top line, you'll see that in 2019, there were about 19.1 million workers employed across Canada. Due to COVID and other factors, that dropped down to about 18.1 million in 2020. It's recovered since then, and we expect it to continue to recover to a point where another 20 million are employed in 2025. What's interesting is to take a look at the trend line for the environmental workforce, the green line at the bottom. If we take a look there, we see that yes, there is an upward trend, just as there is in the total economy. But I think more importantly, the COVID impacts are very different. The trend line shows an increase in environmental workforce activity between 2019 and 2020, and further increases into 2021. Ultimately, we agree, or we forecast that the environmental sector is really it's an essential service across Canada. And economic activities these days can't take place without environmental workers being involved in monitoring and devising new technology to make the products and services that we enjoy more environmentally friendly and environmentally sustainable. We also note that about 1 in 26 workers across Canada is in a green job or was in a green job in 2020. That's about 3.8% of the environmental workforce across, 3.8% of the total workforce across Canada is in an environmental job. We also found that environmental workers are present in every Canadian region. No matter where you want to work, there's a job. Every industry, there are opportunities, and practically every occupation. So there's a wide variety of opportunities available for workers in the environmental sector. Overall, we expect that environmental employment could increase by 17% to 2025. That's compared to only 5% growth in employment between 2020 and 2025 in the total economy. To give you a more detailed look at what we expect to happen over the next 5 years in the Canadian environmental workforce, we estimated that there are about 689,900 or 690,000, let's round up, environmental workers in Canada in 2020. On top of that, we expect there to be another 74,400 new environmental jobs created. That's our expansion demand estimate. And that's over a 5-year period, we're going to see the demand for that, for those additional jobs. At the same time as new jobs are being created, we also expect to see a lot of retirements. And so we're going to see about 98,300 additional job openings happening in the environmental workforce due to retirements. So that's a total amount of 172,700 job openings over the next years through to 2025. That's about 25% of what the employment levels were in 2020. As I said in the previous slide, there are environmental opportunities all across Canada. And so let's take a look at some of the job openings expected in the environmental sector by region. If we take a look at the map here, we see that there's again a wide dispersion of opportunities. The biggest number of opportunities are available in Ontario, with 65,900 environmental job openings expected through 2025. That's about 24% of Ontario's 2020 environmental workforce. We have a smaller number of environmental workers demanded or environmental job openings in Alberta, but we have a higher proportion or a higher share of the 2020 workforce that's going to be demanded. 36% of the 2020 workforce is going to be demanded over the next 5 years. If we take a look at some of the smaller regions with smaller populations, we have smaller numbers of environmental workers demanded. But again, up in the Northwest Territories, the Yukon and Nunavut, we see that there are a small number of opportunities available, about 220 job openings, but that's still about 26% of the total number of environmental jobs in that region in 2020. Green job opportunities exist across industries, but the main industry where we see opportunities for growth in environmental jobs is the professional, scientific, and technical services sector. That's going to account for about 30% of environmental job openings to 2025. If we consider the chart on the right-hand side of the screen, we can see that we've got the hiring requirements broken down into expansion demand, that's the new jobs that are being created, and then replacement demand, which is the need for replacing workers in the sector. In the professional, scientific, and technical services sector, the expansion demand is slightly greater than the replacement demand. But taking a look at a sector such as manufacturing, for example, we see that replacement demand is exceeding the expansion demand for that sector. We are going to see worker retirements driving most of the environmental hiring in the agriculture, forestry, fishing, and hunting sector, in the utility sector, in manufacturing, educational services, and in public administration. What that means is that many of the jobs that are going to be coming available are jobs for mid to senior level workers, individuals who have some experience and some expertise in their workforce contributions. And so we need to replace those individuals with new workers and develop those skills that are going to be in demand for those roles. In terms of professional, scientific, and technical services, that is an industry that is primarily an industry where organizations sell knowledge, they sell expertise. It includes architectural firms, engineering firms, law firms, public relations firms. All of these are firms that sell the knowledge and expertise of their workers, and often that is going to require a post-secondary education in order to be able to do that work. If we take a look at the net hiring requirements by environmental subsector, so by specialization, we can see that there's a range of opportunities, again, across different sectors. Most of the opportunities are available in the sustainability sector, but there are also a large number available in both resource management and environmental protection. In terms of the net hiring requirements, again, in most of the subsectors, the replacement demand is going to exceed the expansion demand, but in some cases, only by a very small proportion. We also have a wide variety of different types of occupations that environmental workers could be in. Taking a look at some of the hiring requirements over the next 5 years, we see that natural and applied sciences and related occupations has the greatest number of opportunities for environmental workers. That's the occupational group that includes scientists such as meteorologists and chemists and geologists. It includes engineers of a variety of different stripes, technicians and technologists, as well as information science professionals, data analysts, and information systems analysts. In addition to needing people in the natural and applied sciences, we also have a pretty high demand for individuals in management roles. Many of the individuals that are in the environmental workforce have to have the ability to bring teams together, oversee the activity of those teams, manage projects, develop budgets, oversee the quality control. So there are a lot of opportunities for management. And again, those opportunities are in large part going to be available due to retirements. Talking about the core environmental workforce, again, those are the ones who require specific environmental skills and training in order to be able to do their job. We estimate about 238,100 core environmental workers in 2020. On top of that, we expect about 18,200 new jobs to be made available for core environmental workers through 2025. And an additional 35,300 for replacement demand in the next 4 or 5 years. So about 53,500 new core environmental workers are expected to be needed over the next 5 years. That's about 37% of Canada's environmental workforce were core workers. And about 23% of the number of core workers in 2020 are going to be needed for replacing or are going to be hired over the next 5 years. To give you some idea of what types of occupations, specific occupations, are in demand, we've got the top occupations based on net hiring requirements here on this slide. At the top of the list are inspectors in public and environmental health and occupational health and safety, with 4,830 net job openings. But we've also got individuals who are working in administrative roles, such as administrative officers, engineers like civil engineers, electrical and electronics engineers, other professional engineers. Some senior manager roles are in high demand, with senior managers in health, education, social and community services and membership organizations, and senior managers in construction, transportation, production, and utilities being in high demand. And we also have some operator roles. The water and wastewater treatment plant operator occupation is another one that we're going to see a lot of job openings available for workers. And then at the bottom of the list, we have geoscientists and oceanographers. It turns out, though, that we're going to expect to see some shortages in the number of people who could potentially work in those roles. And we've got a list here of roles where we expect to see a shortage of environmental workers for a variety of reasons. One reason is that there's simply a need for training that not enough individuals in the workforce have at this point in time. Environmental specific competency requirements, again, the roles are often going to require specific competencies. But taking a look at the list here, we see, again, a wide variety of different occupations for which we could have shortages, all the way from legislators and senior management to physical and life science professionals, construction managers, managers in utility and manufacturing, forestry technologists and technicians, conservation and fishery officers, urban and land use planners, a variety of different types of engineers. And then at the bottom, we've got contractors and supervisors in mining and oil and gas. Much of those workers are in demand for the remediation of orphaned well sites in a variety of regions across Canada. So whether you look at it from an industry perspective, from an occupational perspective, from a regional perspective, we see that there are a lot of opportunities for people to take advantage of to become environmental workers if that's what they're interested in. I'll turn it over to Claudine for the next set of slides.
Thank you, Jenny. From now, we're going to shift gears and talk a little bit more about current hiring needs from the perspective of a job posting analysis system that we have been running for a few years now. And so what we do is look at the green job postings that we see online and compare it against the total number of job postings that are available online or advertised by employers across Canada. And so what's interesting is by monitoring those green versus total job postings in Canada, what we've found is there has been a green job surge across Canada for a variety of geographies, industries, and occupations. In fact, from our most recent data set, and that is from April to June of 2021, we found that of the million unique jobs advertised online in Canada, about 67,000 or close to 7% were actually for green roles. And that's much higher than the green job share or enviro share that Jenny had shared earlier year over year. The top region for green jobs, not surprising, sorry, Jenny, could you move back? Would be in Ontario with a little over 20,000 environmental job ads or enviro ads. The top industry, and again, this is not a surprise, would be in professional, scientific, and technical services with about 27,000 jobs. And as one of the important things to note is that while green jobs have seen an increase, by 20% from the previous quarter. So that's from January to March of 2021. We've also noted a fourth consecutive quarter of increase in viral ads, and also the second consecutive quarter in which viral ads surpassed pre-pandemic levels. And the one other thing to highlight is the fact that unfortunately, the non-green jobs are still somewhat impacted in the first half of this year, where we've seen still a decrease from the second quarter from first quarter numbers. Let's move on to the next one. Now, when we look more closely at the green jobs that require environmental specific knowledge, skills, training, or those that really just perform purely environmental tasks, we discovered that employers are looking to fill a variety of roles, from scientists to project managers, a number of engineering roles, but also water treatment operators, and even a number of technician roles. We also found that these opportunities require workers from various educational backgrounds and experience levels. But many of the green job postings we've analyzed for this year are seeking candidates with a bachelor's degree, as well as those with 3 to 5 years experience, as you see in those two pie charts. Let's now shift gears and reveal what competencies employers seek from potential candidates. We'll cover 3 types of competencies. First will be environmental specific ones. Second would be other technical or specialized skills. And lastly, which should be of growing importance, are the soft skills, or what we prefer to call personal and interpersonal skills. So first, with environmental knowledge and skills, what we've seen is that the expansion of environmental work and environmental targets have resulted in some general and more so unique environmental competencies that employers are seeking for. These range from the regular environmental work that we know, such as environmental consulting, field work, green research and analysis, to more specialized areas such as water quality, clean energy, climate change, and many others. I do want to highlight that employers have consistently stressed the need for workers or professionals to be up to date on environmental regulations and policies. You know, with the ever evolving environmental work that's out there and targets that are being set, it's very important to stay current on issues and trends. Let's move on to the next one. Now, environmental knowledge and skills go hand in hand with a number of other technical or specialized skills, particularly project management, planning, Q&A, business development, and the growing need for digital skills, ranging from the basic Microsoft Office or computer literacy that employers normally seek for, and you see that in many job postings, down to more complex ones where you have to operate or maintain more sophisticated software or equipment. Other job postings that we've noticed also are requiring skills related to repairing equipment or being familiar with HVAC or doing procurement work. There's a lot of them, and not all jobs will require all of these things listed, but there is a fair amount of combination of environmental and non-environmental technical skills that we've noticed from every job posting. Which really is the key highlight that we're trying to deliver here, is that green jobs or green professionals require a multidisciplinary skill set, even from a technical perspective, where you see a combination of environmental and more general skill sets that are being sought after. Let's go to the next one, which is something that I really want to stress, which is the need or the growing need for personal and interpersonal skills. Based on job posting data, but also from annual surveys that we conduct with employers, we're finding that there's a growing importance for soft skills or personal interpersonal skills. A number of employers are looking for workers with communication skills, are able to collaborate within the team or even with external stakeholders, having effective relationship building skill sets, technical writing, or even general writing are also mentioned very much. And even those with leadership skills are typically sought after. We also found from a survey that we conducted about 3 years ago that having these types of skills actually increase your employability within any organization. Now, we understand that it's not that easy to have these developed, especially when you're a new graduate. In some cases, there's an expectation that you might be able to develop these while you're taking training or learning. But most of these skills are developed over time, potentially through experience and through working with more experienced people. And so what we found is employers are ready to train for these types of skills along with the other technical skills that were mentioned in the earlier slides. So if we go to the next slide, a survey that we conducted last year, we found that actually 90% of employers surveyed actually provide training to new environmental hires. And many really offer a variety of knowledge, technical, and soft skills training, but also deliver training in various formats from, through orientation or onboarding process, which I think a lot of organizations do, down to providing safety or technical skills training that could be delivered in-house or could be outsourced. We think that there's really a general consensus here that employers understand the value of continuous development within the workforce. And so they're really heavily investing in this. Now, we also present a chart here on the right side about the types of training that employers offer to new hires. But one of the things we want to stress is that, again, the employability factor here, especially if you're seeking for jobs, employers will value candidates that have these already and need to just bridge learning that's more company specific, if anything. So if you are able to pursue training or develop yourselves before seeking employment elsewhere, it would be a good opportunity to do so. And one of the things we wanted to highlight or share with you is we do offer a variety of online training that you could take. They're very cost effective and a lot of them are delivered, most of them are delivered online. We do offer on-site training from time to time, but that's normally done through employer custom workshops, if you will, or sessions. And there's a variety of training topics that we cover, from more technical stuff to a lot of the softer side of things like writing or communication skills. And we also have courses on project management as well. Let's go to the next slide. So we also ask employers what type of professional development opportunities are offered to workers. And so here are the other things that employers mention they work on with workers so that they can really help them with career advancement. And so now you start to see the leadership training or more specific training like risk management and conflict resolution. Change management is a big piece with the environmental workforce. So that's, again, one of the things that employers are investing in. Now, if there are employers listening or even workers, job seekers, and existing workers that are listening with it on this webinar, one of the resources that you may want to look into are the variety of government grants and contributions that may be able to support jobs and training development. Within ECO, we actually administer funding for green jobs and employment. Whether you are a new or experienced practitioner struggling to find the right job, or you're an employer looking for support or those qualified individuals. If you go to our website, we have a few employment, job funding, and even HR services that can help you. Now, lastly, we also ask employers what can help individuals land or keep a green job or succeed in an environmental career. And so, outside of the things we've already covered around having some of those technical and soft skills, I do want to highlight that employers are also seeking for that some of those positive attributes, if you will, having a positive attitude, the willingness to learn, having the drive or a passion for sustainability, or achieving green outcomes, dedication, hard work, ethics. Those are really key to employers as well. And they understand that sometimes it's hard to glean that from interviews, but this will help you if you do land a job. This will help you in succeeding within the organization and advancing. And one of the other things that employers said would help is continuing to network, whether you're within your preferred job or still working towards that. They have highlighted the value of networking and connecting with experienced professionals who could help mentor you informally or perhaps even participate in a more formal mentoring program. The other value of networking is to learn from others. One of the things we are challenged with when it comes to the environmental workforce is that they, again, exist in practically every industry in Canada and cover a lot of different specializations or functions. And so by connecting with like-minded, but also other types of environmental professionals, you get to expand your knowledge base and your understanding of where environmental work or your environmental competencies could really play a role in advancing Canada's pursuit of the net zero targets, if you will. And so, again, all of these attributes will be something that you should keep in mind. And I do want to highlight again another resource that's available from a networking point of view and even just connecting and staying informed on trends, but also gain learning from others so that you can have the same kind of dedication, work ethic, and other types of skill sets that might not be kind of seen or readily available from job postings that you see. One of the opportunities to do that is through participating in our EP designation, so environmental professional designation, which is a multidisciplinary environmental certification for professionals from across all Canadian sectors. So we welcome folks, whether you're from oil and gas or you're in public administration or even education and training. You may want to kind of look into this program. The value of this program is not just to be recognized for your environmental competencies, but also, again, to network and learn from others so you can help advance sustainable practice and responsible economic growth. So with that, we wrap up our webinar on the skills and the jobs needed to grow the environmental sector and some of the resources that are available to you to kind of help you advance in your career or as an employer to help you find the right candidates for your green job opportunities. I'll turn it over to Conrad to wrap up the webinar.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to our webinar. Thank you, Claudine and Jenny, for presenting this interesting topic. If you guys have any questions, please direct any of them to the emails displayed on the slide. And I hope everyone has a great rest of their day.